So we're back then with another Chaos level 20 approved video for Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. It's an update of the video I done a few days ago. That's the companion base build, which is a mixture of the Graveborn and the Spore Warden class. This class absolutely smashed its way through to Chaos level 20 with no problems at all. I would say it's even better than the Spell Shot build that I done sometime last week. It really is unbelievably powerful. Now in the video, everything that we will be looking to break down to let you know how to actually run this build. We'll start off with an overview. I'll go into a bit more detail about the build. We then check out the skills I'm using. I'll give you the rationale as to why I'm using the skills. We'll check out the gear next. This section will be a bit more intensive than the last video, because when we start to work our way towards Chaos level 20, it is a little bit more reliant on gear. You don't need perfect gear or anything like that, but it certainly does help you. Following on from that, we'll look at the stats that I use on the build and also the myth rank, and then we'll finish up with some gameplay. Now let's dive in. Let's start off with the overview first. Build wise then, as mentioned, it is a companion based build, mixture of the Graveborn and the Spore Warden. Adding up my damage numbers when I've got all my various procs up and via my gear, I'm getting round about 600% bonus damage for companions, which is just incredible. On top of that as well, I get an additional 130% crit hit chance. Now that is a multiplier, it's not a flat amount. It doesn't mean every hit would be a crit, but even at that 130% multiplier on the crit chance for companions is really pretty awesome. For survivability, we have a companion that can revive you, and the main way we actually gain survivability with this build is the fact that our companions are the one doing all the work. They're taking all the danger, they're taking the enemies down, and we can just really sit back in the background. So that is a quick overview of the build. Let's now break down the skills I'm using. These have actually changed a fair bit from the last video, so let's check them out. So for the skills section, I've actually made quite a few changes from the last video. Previously I would go down to the bottom of the Graveborn tree, that way I could activate kill skills on spell use, but even when I was trying to stack spell cooldown, the best I could get in my spell was around about 20 seconds, so it simply wasn't worthwhile. So we've made some changes which I'll run over now. The active skill we're using, this is really important, it's Blizzard, and I'll explain why in a moment. Let's work our way through the tree. You've got this one here, this is a no-brainer, it gives you companion health and damage. We then have 5 points in this, so we can get our action skill available more often, and you'll see why in just a moment. Next up here we have this one where our mushroom companion will taunt and poison enemies. We then have increased gun critical hit chance and companion critical hit chance. We're mainly taking it for the companion critical hit chance. We have a 1 point wonder here where your companion, when you're in Save Your Soul, will revive you. This is absolutely fantastic, this one, because we don't have a massive amount of survivability with this build, certainly not as much as we had with the Spell Shot and Graveborn combination, which is essentially a tank style class almost, but with this one here we don't have as much survivability, so this can really come in clutch for 1 point. We then have Thrill of the Hunt. This one, gun critical hits grant increased companion damage for a duration. Now I'm lucky enough to have 4 out of 3 in this, so companion damage goes up by 12%, 10 stacks, that's 120% damage. We can get it via gun critical hits, we can also get it via companion, and I'm going to talk about that once we get to the gear section. Finishing up here, here's the change that I now have. So this one here, Wrath of Nature. Whenever the Fate Maker deals ability damage to an enemy, the affected enemy takes increased damage from all sources for a duration, and that's a whopping 54% increased damage from all sources. That's the reason we're speccing in to getting our active ability up as often as we can. When we fire that off, I've got various other buffs via my gear, enhancements that I'm actually using, or enchantments that I'm using, and they'll give me around about 140-150% bonus damage when I activate the action skill. So if you have a badass or a boss appear and you activate this, it really ramps your damage numbers up. For the Graveborn here, we have a bit of a mix. Some of the areas I had to put points in just to get further down the tree, so you can see that with the likes of Mortal Vessel here and Essence Drain as well. I didn't go too hard on the spell cooldown rate because honestly I don't think it's working correctly. I had round about a 40% spell cooldown rate, and the cooldown of my spell went from 25 seconds to around about 21 seconds, so something's not working right with that, so that's why I'm not investing any more in it. We've got Faithful Thralls. I've got 5 out of 3 in this, which is absolutely incredible. So for every companion I have, sometimes I can get around about 10 or more. I gain 15% bonus damage, which is amazing. That applies to my companions and myself. We then have this one here maxed out, so this is Harvest. This is additional dark magic damage for your companions. You want to ramp up their damage as much as you can. This one here is great. I know I'm not casting spells that often, but still getting that extra 30% health over the 2 seconds for casting a spell can definitely be helpful. We have Dread Covenant, 1 point wonder. It's giving you 35% damage reduction for 1 point, is incredible. And then I've lucked out again here, and I've got 5 out of 3 for this, so I can actually have up to 5 of your Dark Hydras up at a time when I'm killing enemies, which is amazing. 1 point wonder once again, a 1 in 5 chance of Demi-Lich when I cast a spell will cast their spell. Hellish Blast once again, it hits like an absolute truck, so it's worthwhile getting the small chance of that activating again. We then have Ascension spell damage. From what I've tested, doesn't affect your companions at all, so I'm just taking this for the bonus 60% additional max health. I would actually get a full amount of 10 stacks. And then we finish up this tree with Lord of Edges. So my health is low, dealing 25% more damage, or I'm taking 25% less damage. Now, one other thing that I was potentially going to go for, it was hard to choose between the two. It was either this one, Lord of Edges, or this one here, Headhunter, where gun damage dealt to critical hit areas is increased. It's a pretty nice extra 25% there, but the bulk of my damage is actually coming via the companions, so that's the reason I went for the survivability instead. But that is the skills. Let's now look at the gear. So gear wise here then, we'll start off with 2 guns. We've got the type of guns that you're looking for on the companion class or pistols, and it's the Furior. Now if we actually look in the second box here, you can see with this one, thrown weapon becomes a gun with wings and shoots enemies before homing in and exploding. You can have 2 of these up at a time. I think their duration is around about 10 seconds or so. With this, we had the skill earlier on where a gun critical hit would give our companions increased damage. This actually procs it, which makes it absolutely amazing. So you don't even have to shoot enemies, you just have to throw these out. They'll shoot enemies, they'll get your gun critical hits, increasing your companion damage, and then it all snowballs from there. That's one option you can go for. Another option you can go for, you can see this one here, thrown weapon explodes on impact and morphs into a multi-headed Hydra. There are other variations of this that have just the one head, but this one is a multi-headed Hydra, so it's firing out more projectiles, which means it's doing more damage. It's really down to you which one you actually want to go for. Probably the lazier option would be this, because you don't even have to worry about hitting enemies to get that bonus damage from your gun critical hits. Looking at the melee weapon we're using here, we're using this for Goblin Pickaxe. You can see melee attacks spawn gold, we're not worrying about that, but whenever the Fate Maker picks up gold, which is relatively often when you're defeating enemies, you increase movement speed, spell cooldown rate and action skill cooldown rate by 6% for 5 seconds, stacks up to 5 times, so that would be an additional 30% you would actually get on the cooldowns of your spell and also your action skill, which is absolutely amazing for this setup. If we look at the enhancement we have on this here, so in spellcast increase dark magic damage by 30% for 5 seconds. This won't affect your companions, and I'm looking to get a better one here, but I'm up to it costing me around about 2,000 of your shards at a time. Now actually, I'll mention very quickly, enhancement wise, this one here is perfect. While action skill is active, increase companion damage by 50%, so that's absolutely amazing. Looking at the rings we've got here, we've got companion damage, and then I'm lucky enough to have companion critical hit chance and then critical hit damage. Going down further, we've got a legendary ring here, so this one companion damage once again, critical hit damage, and then you've got the red text, which is while action skill is cooling down, effects are increased 50%, so that's nice there. It's also chaotic, that one, so the stats are a little bit higher. This shield, the main reason I'm using it is for the capacity. 7,000 capacity is amazing, but it's got a nice enchanted status as well. On action skill start, increase status effect chance and damage by 20% for 10 seconds. Moving on to the armour here, I'm using this one mainly for the bonuses to skills it gives me, although it does also have close to 30% additional companion damage, which is incredible, but the skills that it's given me are amazing. In a moment I'm going to talk about legendary armour and ones you want to look out for. for, you would look for a combination of the skills, the perks I've got here, and the additional legendary perk. We'll check that out in a second. The spell I'm using, the one that I would say you want to use, is a repeating cast Hydra spell. It allows you to bring out 3 of them at a time, and you can get multiple charges. You see I've got 2 spell charges on this, which means at the start of a fight, if I've got 2 charges available, that's 6 Hydras instantly. That's ramping your damage way up. We then get this, which is amazing as well. So the actual perks aren't that good in the middle there, but it's all about the legendary perks. So Fate Maker critical hits increase companion critical hit chance by 80% for 6 seconds, and then companion critical hits increase Fate Maker critical hit damage by 30% for 6 seconds. This will be the best legendary you can get in this slot, so that's what you're looking out for. Now, very quickly talking about the armour here, I'll go into this one first actually. So this one could certainly be good. So periodically teleports faraway Hydra companions next to the Fate Maker. Killing enemies extends the duration of your Hydra companions by 30%, so look out for that. Or alternatively, all companion damage is converted into fire damage. Enemies damaged by your companions take 20% increased fire damage for 6 seconds. There are other variants of this. You can get like a lightning variant, for example, and a poison variant. So if you're going up against certain enemies that maybe have a high shield or a high threshold to anything bar poison, then you would just slot around your armour and you would gain a huge amount of additional element of that particular type that your companions are firing out, so worthwhile keeping them in your storage. But that is all the gear. Let's now quickly talk about the stats I've got on my character and also the myth rank. Stat wise then, the 2 main focuses I have really was Constitution, just to get our health up a bit more, and Attunement, that's your action skill cooldown, because think of all those buffs we had around when we actually activate our action skill. I've put some points into Intelligence as well, just to get me casting the Hydras more often, but it doesn't make a massive impact. But that is the stats. Let's look at the myth rank. For your myth rank, unfortunately when you assign points in one class it applies to all classes, but I do have a general setup here which helps out just about all the classes. So for Druid I'm actually going for Loot Luck, I would recommend that first. And then next up we have Archmage and it's Intelligence, that gives you your spell cooldown, and then after that I'm going for Spell critical hit chance. For Blade Master we have Strength and Constitution, so that's health and also increased crit damage. After that I'll go for Dark Magic damage. Quite a few of the classes I have are actually making use of that. And then for this particular one here we've got increased movement speed, which of course is great on all the classes. So that is the myth rank, and that's everything covered that you need to know to run this build and smash Chaos level 20. So let me actually finish up with some gameplay now, and as always if the video has been helpful, take the time to hit the like, share, subscribe button and leave a comment below, and thanks for tuning in, stay safe, and I'll see you all again soon.
I could always have more. Wanna cross blades with the best, do ya? Where'd you learn that? Let's open a window! Oh, you really thought you were going to lose, didn't you? Room of Doom! Let the magic begin. No time for prayers! Resist, little one. Burn! Death! Oh, death! That one's mine. Don't touch that loot. Where are your manners?